I had stumbled upon a mysterious hotel in the middle of nowhere, its grand facade concealing an enigmatic past. As I checked in, I was handed a user manual by the peculiar hotel clerk, who warned me to follow its rules diligently if I desired a safe stay. Curiosity piqued, I retired to my room and began reading the manual. Little did I know that within its pages were chilling rules that would test my courage and sanity. Rule 1. Always lock your room door after sunset. The first rule, prominently displayed at the hotel's entrance, instructed guests to lock their room doors after sunset. It was emphasized that failure to do so might result in unwanted visitors from the realm beyond, drawn by the allure of darkness. Rule 2. Never open the windows during a storm. Rule 2, detailed in the guest manual, warned against opening the windows during a storm. The winds that accompanied the tempest carried more than rain. They whispered the secrets of the long forgotten, and to invite them in meant risking one's connection to the living world. Rule 3, refrain from using electronics in the elevator. A discreet sign inside the elevator declared Rule 3, guests were advised to avoid using any electronic devices within the confines of the elevator. The reason remained unexplained, but a vague sense of unease lingered in the air, hinting at the presence of something that thrived in the absence of technology. Rule 4. Refrain from looking at the paintings on the 7th floor. On the 7th floor, an array of unsettling paintings adorned the walls. Rule 4 urged me not to gaze upon these works of art for too long, as the eyes of the subjects seemed to follow and judge those who dared to stare. Rule 5. Never swim in the hotel's murky pond. A murky pond nestled behind the hotel tempted some guests, but Rule 5 forbade any aquatic ventures. Beneath the murky surface, something sinister awaited, yearning to drag unsuspecting swimmers into its watery depths. Rule 6. Do not accept room service after midnight. Rule 6 cautioned against ordering room service after midnight. The dishes delivered during those hours were not prepared by the hotel staff but by a spectral kitchen, and consuming such fare might bind me to the realm of the dead. Rule 7. Ignore the cries from the room above. If chilling cries echoed from the room above, Rule 7 advised me to ignore them completely. The sounds were not from the living but from a tormented entity that sought to draw attention to its pain. Rule 8. Never step into the enchanted garden at twilight. The hotel boasted an enchanted garden, but Rule 8 strictly forbade me from setting foot there at twilight. After dark, the garden transformed into a twisted, nightmarish realm, and its allure could ensnare the unwary. Rule 9. Refrain from asking about the disappearing staff. The hotel staff seemed to change frequently, and Rule 9 cautioned against inquiring about those who vanished without a trace. The walls had ears, and speaking of the missing employees might seal my own fate. Rule 10. Avoid the dimly lit corridors on the 5th floor. The 5th floor corridors were dimly lit, and Rule 10 advised me to avoid them whenever possible. The shadows concealed phantoms, and those who dared to traverse the gloom might find themselves forever lost in the hotel's eerie maze. Rule 11. Don't peer through the keyhole of room 666. Room 666 was perpetually sealed, and Rule 11 warned me not to attempt to look inside. Peering through the keyhole might grant me a glimpse of the unholy, driving me to madness with the forbidden knowledge. Rule 12. Never accept invitations to the private library. The hotel offered room service from all rooms, except for room 13. Rule 18 advised against attempting to order from that room, as its inhabitant was no mere guest but a malevolent entity with a taste for the living. Rule 19. Don't follow the reflections in the mirrors. If I caught a glimpse of movement in the mirrors, Rule 19 instructed me not to follow the reflections. The mirror realm was a twisted echo of our own, and those who entered might never find their way back. Rule 20. Avoid the hotel's empty swimming pool. The once lively swimming pool now sat empty, and Rule 20 warned against approaching it. The water held a darkness that pulled at the soul, and those who dared to dive in risked being trapped in its abyss forever. Rule 21. Never count the stairs in the staircase. The hotel's staircase had an otherworldly design, and Rule 21 emphasized that counting the steps was a grave mistake. The number of steps changed at will, leading those who counted to avoid outside reality. Rule 22. Do not accept the mysterious invitation card. Rule 22 advised against accepting an invitation card found under the door. The card bore no sender's name, and those who responded found themselves drawn into a dreadful event from which there was no escape. Rule 23. Never, ever venture into the basement. Rule 23 concluded the list with an unequivocal command: never, ever venture into the basement. The depths held ancient secrets and malevolent entities, and only the foolhardy would dare to explore its dark recesses. Rule 24. Avoid the antique clock in the lobby. An antique clock adorned the hotel's lobby, but Rule 24 warned against touching it. The gears held the whispers of time itself, and tampering with them could bring forth unforeseen consequences. Rule 25. Never accept gifts left at your doorstep. If I found mysterious gifts outside my door, Rule 25 commanded me not to accept them. Such offerings were cursed trinkets from the ethereal realm, and to receive them meant becoming entangled in their haunting tales. Rule 26. Do not wander the halls during the witching hour. As the clock struck midnight, Rule 26 urged me to stay in my room. The witching hour brought forth spirits and phantoms that roamed the halls, seeking the company of the living. Rule 27. Never answer calls from unknown numbers. Rule 27 instructed me to ignore calls from unknown numbers while staying at the hotel. The voices on the other end belonged to entities far beyond our understanding, and answering them would invite malevolent forces into my reality. Rule 28. Avoid the West Wing after sunset. After sunset, the West Wing of the hotel transformed into a forbidden realm, and Rule 28 warned against venturing there. The walls whispered the stories of long-forgotten tragedies, and those who listened became part of the hotel's haunted history. Rule 29. Do not engage in conversations with the clockmaker. If I encountered the elusive clockmaker who wandered the halls, Rule 29 advised against striking up conversations with him. His knowledge of time transcended the mortal realm, and engaging in discourse with him might leave me lost in the eternal void. Rule 30. Never unlock the antique trunk in the attic. A mysterious antique trunk sat hidden in the attic, and Rule 30 warned me never to unlock it. The contents held remnants of ancient curses, and releasing them into the world could unleash unspeakable calamity. Rule 31. Don't let the candle flame go out. A candle accompanied the guest in their room, and Rule 31 stressed that its flame must never be extinguished. The candle provided protection against the ethereal entities that lurked in the shadows, and losing its light left one vulnerable to their grasp. Rule 32. Avoid the phantom dancer in the ballroom. At midnight, a spectral dancer graced the grand ballroom, but Rule 32 advised against engaging with her. To partake in the dance was to become forever entwined with the restless spirit, doomed to wander the ballroom's floor for eternity. Rule 33. Never turn your back to the antique mirrors. The antique mirrors that adorned the hotel were not mere reflections, and Rule 33 warned against turning one's back to them. The reflections might not always be my own, and the unseen entities could reach out and claim me as one of their own. Rule 34. Do not eavesdrop on the staff's whispers. While the hotel staff conversed in hushed tones, Rule 34 insisted that I should never eavesdrop on their conversations. The whispers held arcane knowledge that no mortal should possess, and to hear them would burden me with secrets that could break the human mind. Rule 35. Never venture to the bell tower after dark. The bell tower offered a breathtaking view of the surroundings, but Rule 35 warned against visiting it after dark. The tolling bells sang to the malevolent entities that haunted the night, and venturing there invited their attention. Rule 36. Avoid eye contact with the enigmatic guest. If I encountered an enigmatic guest with eyes like endless voids, Rule 36 advised against making eye contact. The gaze held the power to bind my soul to the abyss, trapping me in the perpetual darkness. Rule 37, don't mention the clock's missing hands. The clock in the hotel's lobby lacked hands, a detail that should not be spoken of, according to Rule 37. The clock's timekeeping was no longer relevant, as it marked the passage of souls rather than minutes. Rule 38, never go above the roof. The hotel's rooftop held a forbidden allure, but Rule 38 barred me from ascending there. The skies above were not empty, and unspeakable entities roamed the higher planes. Rule 39, never disclose your departure time. Rule 39 stressed the importance of never misplacing my room key. The key was not only an entry pass, but also a protective talisman against the malevolence that lurked just beyond the threshold. Rule 40, keep your keys close. Rule 41, never mention the hotel's history. The hotel had a dark and twisted past, but Rule 41 advised me never to speak of it. Delving into the history invoked the wrath of the spirits tied to the building's sordid legacy. Rule 42, avoid the black cat in the lobby. A black cat freely roamed the hotel's lobby, and Rule 42 warned me never to approach or interact with it. The feline's eyes held the secrets of the void, and direct eye contact could plunge me into eternal darkness. Rule 43, do not turn on the television past midnight. Rule 43 stated that I should never turn on the television past midnight. The broadcasts during those hours were from realms unknown, and watching them meant inviting the unknown into my reality. Rule 44, never take the stairs to the basement. A set of stairs led to the hotel's dark and eerie basement, but Rule 44 prohibited me from venturing down there. Those who descended found themselves trapped in a labyrinth of lost souls. Rule 45, don't open the windows during the storm. If a storm raged outside, Rule 45 warned me not to open the windows. The winds carried more than rain and lightning, they carried the whispers of vengeful spirits seeking entry. Rule 46, ignore the phone ringing after midnight. Should the phone ring after midnight, Rule 46 instructed me to let it ring unanswered. The callers were from a realm beyond the living, and conversing with them could bind me to their world forever. Rule 47, always leave the hallway lights on. As I wandered the hotel's hallways at night, Rule 47 demanded that I leave the lights on. Darkness harbored malevolence, and it was safer to navigate the well-lit corridors to avoid unwanted encounters. Rule 48, do not mention children. Rule 48 was cryptic, simply stating, never mention children. The lack of explanation unnerved me, and I couldn't help but wonder what terrible consequences awaited those who dared to break this rule. Rule 49, never look back in the corridors. As night fell, Rule 49 cautioned against looking back. The shadows behind were not always my own, and gazing upon them could seal my fate with the sinister entities that lurked. Rule 50, avoid the third knock. If a third knock sounded at my door, Rule 50 compelled me to ignore it completely. Answering the third knock would grant entry to a force beyond my understanding. Rule 51, always sleep with your shoes nearby. Sleeping with my shoes within reach was more than a travel habit, it was Rule 51's command. Should I need to flee in haste, it was my only hope of escaping the malevolence that sought me. Rule 52, never, ever peek under the beds. Rule 52 concluded the chilling list, admonishing me never to look under the beds. Whatever dwelled beneath was better left unseen, as curiosity could only lead to my downfall. Rule 53, don't let the shower run unattended. Rule 53 warned me never to leave the shower running unattended. The water might turn scalding or icy cold, and unseen hands might caress my skin, promising a haunting touch. Rule 54, always close the closet door. Before retiring for the night, Rule 54 mandated that I close the closet door. Leaving it open invited the lurking entities to step out and embrace me in their cold, ghostly grasp. Rule 55, do not answer the hotel phone before sunrise. Rule 55 insisted I should never answer the hotel phone before sunrise. The early hours belonged to the dead, and their chilling messages could send a chill down the spine of the bravest soul. Rule 56. Never speak to the hotel staff in rhymes. Rule 56 cautioned against speaking to the hotel staff in rhymes or riddles. Such speech was the language of the ethereal, and engaging in it might lead to an eerie conversation that defied understanding. Rule 57. Avoid the maze garden at dusk. A hedge maze stood in the hotel's garden, but Rule 57 forbade me from entering it at dusk. The twists and turns of the labyrinth led to uncharted territory, where time seemed to lose its meaning. Rule 58. Never visit the sauna alone. If I wanted to use the hotel's sauna, Rule 58 commanded that I never go there alone. Malevolent spirits delighted in trapping guests in the heated chambers, subjecting them to an unrelenting inferno. Rule 59. Don't respond to disembodied voices. If I heard disembodied voices calling my name, Rule 59 warned me against responding. The voices belonged to entities seeking to lead me astray, into the void beyond the hotel's walls. Rule 60. Never pick up lost items in the halls. If I encountered lost items in the hallways, Rule 60 insisted that I should never pick them up. They were traps laid by malevolent spirits, eager to ensnare those who sought to return the belongings. Rule 61. Never play the piano in the lounge. The grand piano in the hotel's lounge might have beckoned music lovers, but Rule 61 discouraged me from playing it. The haunting melodies played by unseen hands led to a dance with the dead. Rule 62. Do not touch the disappearing handrail. The handrail on the staircase had a peculiar habit of vanishing, but Rule 62 warned against reaching for it. Ascending without support was a test of courage and balance, and touching the handrail invited the wrath of the spectral caretaker. Rule 63. Never use the south elevator on Mondays. On Mondays, Rule 63 instructed me to avoid the south elevator entirely. The elevator's doors might open onto a floor that no longer existed, leaving me stranded between dimensions. Rule 64. Never cross the path of the phantom bride. A phantom bride roamed the hotel, seeking her lost love, but Rule 64 advised against crossing her path. Interfering in her ethereal quest invited her wrath, which could be as cold and unforgiving as her lifeless heart. Rule 65. Don't listen to the cacophony in the basement. In the basement, a cacophony of voices and noises might entice the curious, but Rule 65 warned against listening. The symphony of chaos concealed the true voices of the damned, and to hear them was to lose one's sanity. Rule 66. Never leave food unattended in the dining hall. If dining in the hotel's grand hall, Rule 66 commanded that I never leave food unattended. The banquet might attract spectral guests who were not content with merely sampling the cuisine. Rule 67. Never trust the hotel's clocks. Rule 67 cautioned against trusting the hotel's clocks for accurate timekeeping. The hands might move erratically, or they might stop altogether, as if time itself had frozen in this eerie place. Rule 68. Avoid the room with the flickering lights. In the uppermost floor, a room with flickering lights was to be avoided at all costs, as stated by Rule 68. The flickering bulbs cast an unsettling glow on the walls, and guests who entered that room emerged forever changed. Rule 69. Never trespass in the staff quarters. The hotel's staff quarters were off-limits to guests, and Rule 69 advised against trespassing. The quarters were a sanctuary for the unseen workers, and crossing the threshold could invite their ire. Rule 70. Don't venture into the mirror gallery. The mirror gallery, a seemingly innocuous exhibit on the hotel's third floor, was to be avoided at all costs, as stated by Rule 70. The reflections were not reflections at all, but rather gateways into distorted realities. Rule 71. Never mention the forgotten guest. Rule 71 warned against speaking of the forgotten guest who once stayed at the hotel. To mention their name was to beckon their presence back from the beyond, where they resided as a restless spirit. Rule 72. never sleep with your feet hanging off the bed. At night, Rule 72 instructed me never to sleep with my feet hanging off the bed's edge. The darkness beneath held unseen entities with a taste for exposed limbs. Rule 73, avoid the room with no reflections. A room on the second floor lacked any reflective surface, and Rule 73 commanded that I never enter it. The room was a void of forgotten souls, and looking within invited them to claim my reflection as their own. Rule 74, never venture into the foggy courtyard. In the courtyard, a dense fog would sometimes descend, but Rule 74 warned against venturing into it. The fog was not a mere weather phenomenon but a shroud for malevolent entities that preyed on the lost. Rule 75, always carry a protective talisman. As the final rule, number 75 stressed the importance of carrying a protective talisman at all times. The talisman would ward off the spirits and safeguard me from the countless horrors that lurked in the hotel's shadows. As I reached the last page of the user manual, my heart pounded in my chest. The chilling rules had unveiled the hotel's dark secrets and warned me of the lurking malevolence. Despite the fear that gripped me, curiosity gnawed at my mind. I couldn't help but wonder if the hotel's allure was more than just fear and dread, if there was a hint of truth to the otherworldly encounters described in the rules.